This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
Bored at home? Head over to Chumba Casino and join some serious social casino fun. With hundreds of games at your fingertips, no purchase necessary. You can play anytime, anywhere. There's a special welcome bonus waiting for you when you sign up. Play for fun, play for free, and you could even redeem some great prizes. Visit ChumbaCasino.com and get ready to reel in the fun. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, and neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So Russ, a while ago I put a post up on Patreon and our social medias, and I challenged our listeners to send in their stories. And we got a few emails. I have to say that we have the absolute best listeners in the game. They're so cool. They're so funny and engaged, and I'm excited to tell you their stories. This is Listener Stories, Episode 1. Everyone, welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell my husband Russ true crime stories and he reacts to them.
What's up, folks? It's me again.
And this is Jess. And
by me again, I mean Russ.
Well, yeah, obviously, because I just said your name's Russ.
Unless
I have another husband.
And then we'd be subject of true crime podcast because everyone's waking up dead.
Well, this episode's going to be a little different.
Well, not really. You ain't going away. You can't do better than this.
Oh, stop. I'm not going anywhere anyway, because I wouldn't. But this episode is going to be a little different. Typically on our feed, our regular episodes, I research a case and tell Russ the case, and he reacts to it. He never knows ahead of time the story I'm going to tell him. But about 2 months ago or so, I posted that we want to hear your stories. And if you're brave enough, Russ will react to your stories. So we got a couple people who wrote us some emails telling their stories, and they want you to react to them. Are you ready?
This is a little interesting because you guys are like the crime family. I don't want to insult you guys too much, but I will. Because
none of these are ones that you could insult someone.
Well, I insult my best friends, and like the difference is like I won't talk to you at all if I don't like you.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
if you like someone, you make fun of them. That's probably true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what we do in New York. So I'm looking forward to these. I saw Jess reading these a couple times, and they looked really long, so I wouldn't read them. But also, Jess wouldn't let me read them because I'm like, hey, well, like, what are you laughing at? Like, what is that? And she's like, oh, this was a good one.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't let you read it ahead of time because I want you to be surprised like you are on the regular podcast.
So if you guys have any more, send them to us. Our email is
wifeofcrimepod@gmail.com. And you can send over your story. It can be any type of true crime, It can be paranormal. It can be a funny story. It can be literally anything. Just send it over and I'll tell Russ and he'll react to it. Okay, so let's just get into it. Our first email. Are you ready?
Who's it from?
I'm not telling you. I'll tell you at the end.
Oh, you won't even say who is it from?
No.
It's going to be someone I know. If you're not going to tell me the name of the person who's sending it.
All these people are not people you personally know. They're people that listen to the podcast.
Then why wouldn't you say where it's from?
Because I'm going to say it at the end.
Okay.
Russ and Jess, I've been wanting to write you guys a story since you asked on Patreon. Because I asked on Patreon and on all the social medias. Unfortunately, all my stories surrounded paranormal experiences, and I didn't want to let my boy Russ down. I've neglected some of the content on Patreon and went back and listened from the beginning. During the Cecil Hotel episode of the True Crime and Chills, Jess talked about her arrival to New York, and it triggered a memory of mine, oddly enough involving a bum.
Nah.
Because you remember I talked about the story of when the bum bit my butt?
Yeah. Your butt's still biteable.
Oh, stop. In the early 90s, I was a huge wrestling fan.
Hell yeah.
One Christmas,
Hulk Hogan.
One Christmas, my parents gave us, our family, WrestleMania 10 tickets.
Oh, sick.
Which was at Madison Square Garden. I was super excited. It meant riding on an airplane, staying in a hotel, and all the other great things that go on during a vacation. I couldn't even tell you anymore which part of town we stayed in. But I will tell you that what happened next scared the living shit out of me and my brother.
He's obviously a dude.
Mm-hmm. A day or two before going to WrestleMania, my dad, brother, and I went on a walk to find a restaurant to eat at for lunch.
Hopefully dressed up like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, and the Ultimate Warrior. Well, the 90s, I think, was that.
Yeah.
Or it transitioned to like the Stone Cold era was kind of next after that. I wasn't really down. I finished wrestling by then.
Yeah.
My mom found Jesus and she thought Jesus didn't like people punching each other. So I didn't really get to watch wrestling anymore. So instead I went outside and played where crackheads were.
Oh.
Jesus loved them.
Anyway, a day or two before going to WrestleMania, my dad, brother, and I went on a walk to find a restaurant to eat for lunch. As we're walking around, we are a few steps behind two men who are holding hands. The two men pass in front of a homeless man asking for change. They politely decline to give this gentleman any money and start to move on. The homeless man didn't react too kindly to their decision. The homeless man started screaming, "I bet you're going to give all your money to the prostitutes and hookers." Clearly, they weren't doing that because they were two men holding hands. But the next thing he screamed sent chills down my spine. He says, and he wrote in all caps, "I'll cut you up and feed you to the beavers." My brother was so scared, he didn't want to leave the hotel room for the rest of the trip.
I wonder what city they were in, because if this was New York and a bum said that.
I told you already, he was in New York City. This is his first New York City
Oh, it was New York
experience.
City.
Yes.
I thought he said he couldn't remember what city or where he stayed.
No, he couldn't remember what part of town he stayed in.
Oh, so that is an empty threat. You know why?
Why?
We don't have beavers in New York City. I would have said, "Ha! Joke's on you, bum. There's no beavers here."
So my brother was so scared, he didn't want to leave the hotel room the rest of the trip.
He was scared of beavers?
No, scared of the homeless guy.
Oh.
Now it seems ridiculous, but to two 10-year-olds from Minnesota, this shit was downright crazy and scary.
They were probably scared of him like Macaulay Culkin was scared of the dude that looked like Santa Claus next door in Home Alone.
Oh, yeah, like Home Alone Lost in New York, yeah.
No, the regular Home Alone, fool.
Oh, yeah.
But he was in church and then he became his friend.
Oh, that's right. So this is from Kyle, PS5 guy.
Wait, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that was from Kyle.
Yes, the email was from Kyle.
Oh, Kyle's the homie. He cared about my video
Kyle,
game.
PS5 guy, and he also says, "P.S. Hope Russ is finally getting some time in on his PS5 or Switch."
Yo, I got the Switch, and I don't get any time on the PS5 because work sucks. But I take the Switch to work, and I play a little 2K and Zelda, and it's all right.
All right, so this
Kyle, hashtag Beaverman.
This is the long one. Hey, Jess and Russ. Firstly, you guys are great. I love your take on crime stories. Okay, so I come from a not so great family and have a connection to crimes via my family members. My parents met in the early 80s when my mother was visiting her stepfather and brother in jail. My father was an inmate. They fell in love and married while he was an inmate in the jail. So their marriage license actually says the place of marriage was Parramatta Jail.
Wow.
Not only did they marry, but my mother got pregnant with me. Not surprisingly, their marriage didn't work. And about a year or two after my birth in 1982, my mother had another child by another man in 83, and my father remained in jail until I was 11. He had been given a life sentence in the late 70s, but in Australia, this isn't very long, so they don't really have life sentences there, I guess.
Because they don't live that long?
No, they just don't have full life sentences. It's not actually life.
Huh.
All my first memories were of visiting my dad in jail. I would go in with my mother carrying my doll, and my mom would tell me stay away from the big dogs when we'd enter the prison. I would go to my dad, and he would get my doll, collect it by a fellow inmate who dad would say would check my doll in case she's sick. Then she would be returned to me.
Check for the drugs.
I later learned that I was taking in drugs.
Wow.
As I was growing, I was told dad was in prison for traffic fines. However, when, as a 15-year-old, I wanted to leave my mentally ill and drug-addicted mother's house, I learned my father had been in jail for the murder of a man. He had a friend that was estranged from his family and was gay, that my father decided to steal his identity and murder him.
Oh, shit.
Isn't this crazy?
Yeah, your dad was bugged out.
Dad tied him to a bed for 3 days, tortured him in ways that included pulling his nose out with pliers, stabbing his eyes,
All for being gay?
and spraying him with fly spray until he died.
Damn.
He then wrapped him up in carpet, and when he started to smell, he forced my older sibling's mother to help him dispose of the body. The body went undiscovered for years and was only found as my sibling's mother was arrested on drug charges, and she said, if you let me off, I'll give you a murderer. After Dad's arrest, my siblings were sent to a family member's house to be raised. Dad escaped from jail, and while on the run tried to murder a farmer. He was taken back to jail and was seen as a big person in jail because he controlled many people through violence. I learned this fact from one of his cellmates who, when drunk one night, told me that the only person he is scared of is my father, and that he watched my father slit the throat of another inmate while the inmate was watching TV, and then walk off like nothing happened. He also told me my father would rape fellow inmates to show his power.
Holy shit.
My father was always kind and loving in his own way to me, however. When he would come to my home to stay after being released, I'd have to push my cupboard in front of my door at my mother's request because there were rumors that he was molesting children. My father's siblings, so my aunts and uncles, would always tell me not to be left alone with my father. I called my father to help me one night after my mother's boyfriend was being violent and scary.
Oh, it's a wrap for him.
And I'd had enough. My father drove 2 hours from his house to mine, came in the house, sent me to bed, told me not to worry, and took my stepfather out in the garage.
Oh.
In the morning, my father told me I didn't need to worry about him anymore and that he loved me, and then he left the house. My stepfather was alive, but I didn't see him for a few days to a week. Anytime my stepfather would get out of line or be a dick, I'd threaten him with my dad, and then he'd disappear for days.
Oof.
He later asked me not to threaten him with my dad because my dad is a scary man.
Hell yeah.
Once I had my first child, I lost contact with my father as I couldn't take the risk that all the child molesting rumors were true. I'd heard that he set my uncle on fire in a primary school. Thankfully, my uncle survived. He then was later accused of standing over my dying nan and not offering assistance as she died from a heart attack.
Guess that's her grandma. Like
Yeah.
I call my grandma my nanny.
As I got older, he was very heavy into drugs along with my older sister, so distance with them was good for myself and my family. I moved with my children in July 2015 for love. It happened to be closer to my father. A part of me wanted to reach out to him and reconnect. However, I couldn't shake the rumors and put my children at risk. My aunties told me to stay away from him. I put it into the universe, and if it was meant to see him, we would cross paths. He died later that month.
Wow.
All the rumors were confirmed by my family members, and I learned that he participated in other violent crimes after being released from jail. He enjoyed violence and watching life leave people's eyes. But to me, he was my dad. I was never fearful of him. I always felt loved, so it was hard to understand the monster he was when he wasn't that to me. For years, I thought I was an abomination, that I shouldn't be here because my father was being punished for taking life. He shouldn't have been allowed to create me. Therapy helped me a lot. I think this is why I enjoy true crime, as it helps me understand my father a little more. Thanks for reading. Stay awesome. Brea.
Wow, Brea.
That's crazy.
That's interesting. What I was thinking, the first thing I was thinking is she was around her father's cellmate or something, and he was telling her stories.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how she got in touch with him to be drunk around him and get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a small world, so you never know. And then I was thinking, sometimes it might be good to have the monster on your side.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? He loved her and protected her and was always good to her.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're conflicted because he's not good to other people.
Yeah. No, it is crazy.
But he takes care of you. So he never did nothing to you personally. So that's tough. That's
that
crazy.
must be a really tough position to be in. It's like BTK's daughter. She is coming out with a book. Her father was this horrible serial killer, but he was a really good father to her. And he was really respected in their church and really good to her. And that must be a crazy thing to realize.
Yeah, I don't mess with them church people that are super nice. No one's that nice for no reason. They talk low, slow, and give long hugs. I don't play that game.
But yeah.
And a soft hug, they embrace you very slowly and long. And I'm you're supposed to give me 3 taps on the back and keep it moving.
Whatever. I don't even know what you're talking about.
No, you got to give the tap on the back. You ever hug someone, you got to give the tap so you keep it moving. You don't hold long and embrace.
Okay.
If you ever give a long hold, don't do it.
Well, that was crazy, right?
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm kind of like that. Well, that was my dad, and he was good to me.
Yeah.
He protected me, and he took care of that dude, and
yeah, I know.
Who knows what he did? He didn't do too much, but he used to have sex with people in jail to intimidate them. You never know.
Yeah, I know.
Whew.
So crazy. That was a heavy one.
Yeah, don't mess with Brea. Well, dad passed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the dad passed, but before that.
Yeah.
But still, don't mess with Brea. She's down with the crime family.
She is. She's a patron.
Yeah, so don't mess with her.
All right, I got another one. Hey, y'all! Exclamation point.
Howdy.
My name is Susan, and I'm 26, a mom of one awesome little girl, and we live in southern Indiana. I just want to start by saying how much I love y'all. Wife of Crime Wednesdays are a highlight of both mine and my husband's weeks.
That's dope.
Your podcast was introduced to me by my wonderful husband. Shout out to Theodore Roosevelt. Obviously not his name, but he'll understand.
He's like a regular dude. Just don't say my name.
Wife of Crime is the only thing, true crime, that he gets into. So it became something for us to connect and bond over. He always laughs at Russ and his jokes, and I can hear the eye rolls in Jess's tone.
Facts.
We can very much relate to your back and forth banter, so thank you for that. I have 2 stories to share with you today, but please keep in mind I'm no author. Feel free to use my name and all the details included because I've changed all the identifying information already.
Oh, cool.
Here we go. Story number 1.
I'm glad, we've been getting that a lot lately, that this is the one podcast that people can listen to with their husband.
Mm-hmm.
I guess because we just all think the same. We're just like grown ass kids. A
Yeah.
bunch of men, like, none of us have our shit together. We just laugh at dumb stuff. And
Well, I feel like there are men that are into true crime for sure. I mean, they're out there. There's podcast hosts that are true crime podcast hosts that are men. But I do feel like there's a whole population of men who have these wives and girlfriends that love true crime, and the men themselves aren't really that into it. But this is a good podcast for them because you're kind of like that and they can relate to the things you say.
Well, a little known fact is I feel like I introduced Jess to true crime. As far as like I told her about the Serial podcast with the whole Adnan things, and then she started listening to that. Or she's going to say someone else told her, but I brought it up and then she started listening. So I just saw her roll her eyes. She didn't hear it as she's sipping her wine. So
someone else did tell me about it, but you listened to Serial. And then I listened to it after you, but someone else did.
And then
tell me
I
about
listened. I used to listen to Crime Junkie.
Mm-hmm. You did tell me about Crime Junkie.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're like the first ones, Like
I feel like they're
the
good.
Bitcoin of true crime. Like they were first, so they're the biggest. But they are good. I'm not saying they're not good.
No, they're great. I just feel like they are a lot of people's first true crime podcast. I do think that.
They're like just the tip.
I can't.
And then eventually you get deep in it. I didn't mean it like that, but I meant it like that. But you know where I was going with it.
Yeah, no, they are. They're like, okay.
It's going to be their new t-shirt.
Just the tip.
True. What is it? Crime Junkies, just the tip.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh, don't send the Crime Junkies army after us.
No,
They're
'cause
big.
They are big. They have 300,000 reviews and
Yeah.
ratings on Apple. They're huge.
It's just a joke, folks.
They have 1 million Instagram followers. We would be canceled in a heartbeat. Okay, here we go. Story number 1. Last year, save more money was the most popular New Year's resolution in America. Clearly, a lot of us feel like our money is slipping through our fingers. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not the best saver, and I don't know much about investing until I started saving and investing with Acorns. Turns out you don't have to be an expert at all because Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. And I always thought that when people say, ooh, I invest in stocks, that they had a ton of money or something. Well, you don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can literally start with $5. And you guys are spending that at Starbucks on these fancy lattes. So skip the coffee and invest with Acorns. You don't even need a ton of time. Like you can just sign up and start investing within 5 minutes. Head over to acorns.com/wifeofcrime or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. That's acorns.com/wifeofcrime. You guys already know because we have been talking about them for a while now. Via Hemp is by far one of our favorite sponsors we've ever had, okay? We use their products all the time. Maybe you're a little like me. You're a little anxious. You have a hard time settling down. You're kind of wound up a lot. If that's you, Via Hemp products are for you. Check out their website. You will find something that speaks to you. Maybe you're like Russ. You have a hard time sleeping because you have bad nerve pain or chronic pain. Then Via Hemp is for you because their gummies will help you get some quality sleep. Maybe you're looking to have a really good time. Maybe you just really like edibles. You want to laugh. You want to get the munchies. You want to watch a movie and have a really strong belly laugh. Then Via Hemp products are for you, okay? They're literally for everybody. So head over to viahemp.com, promo code wifeofcrime1 to get 15% off your first order. That's viahemp.com. Wife of Crime #1 for 15% off your first order. Early summer of 2012, and it's a typical Midwest night. It's about 80 degrees, even after the sun goes down, and the air is heavy and humid. It's the kind of weather where you start feeling sticky and sweaty the moment you go outside. Absolutely disgusting. I, being only 17 and without a driver's license, had nothing better to do than to stay inside and go to sleep early. I woke up at about 1 a.m. to my mother screaming at the top of her lungs to call police. Then I hear a loud crashing and what sounded like children screaming and crying coming from our upstairs neighbor. So I do as I was told, and I call 911. The operator takes my name and asks what the address is and what the situation was. I tell her that I believed there was a domestic violence incident happening above me, which sadly wouldn't have been abnormal in our area of town. The operator then demands to speak with an adult. Looking back on it, I guess she must have thought I was just prank calling, but at the moment I couldn't help but think that she was being ridiculous. Knowing what I know now about 911 dispatchers, I can see that it was just a lack of care and training on her end, but I digress.
I could feel she was ready to stand on her soapbox there. Like,
I hand the phone to my mother and slap my shoes on and run outside. Not sure what my overconfident 17-year-old self thought she was doing, flying out of there like Batman, but I'm glad I did. I see a man laying in the road covered in blood, and a girl leaning over him, freaking out, crying and screaming. I run back to our laundry closet and grab a bunch of beach towels and then run back out to the man in the road and start applying pressure to his wounds.
wow.
And trying to get him to stay awake. It feels like forever, but the EMTs and police finally arrive. They scoop the man up and head to the hospital. The enormous police officer, just to paint you a picture, 6 foot tall, at least 250 pounds.
The return of Bigum Smacks the officer?
Well, this guy sounds huge. Comes to my mother and I, and we give our statements, and then the policeman asks me to go inside. As I'm walking up to her porch, I hear a bellowing, deep voice ask my mother what was wrong with her and why she allowed me out into the middle of the situation. Before she had time to respond, he was already telling her that she should be ashamed of herself and that I could have been attacked too.
Ooh, that's true, though.
I'm at the front door, so I go inside. Yeah, but is it his right to tell her mother that?
No, it's true.
Because she just ran out of the house. She's a 17-year-old girl.
Because she's a good person. She ran out the house, but then at the same time,
who is he?
Well, then you're worried, like, hey, don't let your kid run outside. They're going to get hurt, too.
Well, yeah, okay.
I understand both sides, and I understand. Well, the mom was probably sleeping.
No, she wasn't sleeping. She's the one that told her to call 911.
Oh, I thought she called it on her own.
You don't listen. Anyway.
I was pouring a glass of wine. I'm listening.
Anyway, I couldn't hear what else he said, but she just stood there for another 5 or so minutes and then comes inside and goes back to bed like nothing happened. We never heard anything about an arrest or if the guy even lived.
Oh.
About 6 months pass, and I'm hanging out with some friends, and we get to chatting about crazy things that have happened to us. And this girl, Stacy, started telling us about a time that her boyfriend, Kyle, got high, not weed. This is the Midwest. It's methed up. Methed up.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was really funny.
This is what, see, you could tell our listeners their sense of humor because they could deal with me.
Yeah.
Like that's, like someone else like, oh no, don't say meth up.
Well, anyway.
Shout out to your good joke.
Stacy started telling us about that time her boyfriend Kyle got high and left their house to go for a walk. Stacy and one of their friends, Brad, had gone looking for Kyle when they got jumped by some random guy in the street.
You can't get jumped by one guy. Jumped is multiple guys.
Well, anyway, they got jumped by some random guy in the street. Brad was stabbed. Stacy was traumatized, but was so thankful for the lady who came and helped keep Brad alive while they waited for the police. I interrupted her story and I asked if this happened at the intersection of 17th and Bark. When she said yes, my heart almost fell out of my butt. Turns out, Stacy and I had actually met once before when Brad was stabbed outside my house in the middle of the night. The full story of that night was that Kyle got high, went for a walk, tried to go home, but entered the wrong apartment. Jumped out of the window of the apartment. The apartment renter then tried to follow the guy, saw Brad and Stacy, assumed Brad was the guy, and stabbed him 17 times. That's insane.
Wait, let me try to get this clear. So the guy that got stabbed didn't go in the apartment. The guy came out thinking it was him.
Yes.
Oh, and he came out chasing him
17 times.
Wow.
Brad lived and Kyle and Stacy are married with 3 kids, the last I knew. So that's the story of when I helped save a man's life, got my mom yelled at by a policeman, and made a friend out of a weird chance encounter. Feel free to edit or shorten if needed.
That was pretty good.
That's crazy, right?
It was a good coincidence.
All right, I got one more. This next story is short, she says. My mom and I were living in a small 1-bedroom duplex in a sketchy side of town. I was only 11 or 12 and still shared a bed with my mom. We are startled awake about 3 a.m. to the sound of a back door opening and footsteps in the kitchen. My mom was totally frozen in fear, so I panicked and threatened to shoot the intruder with a gun we didn't own.
Good call, though, but grab something.
Yeah. She was only like 11 or 12.
Think of that. It's like, I think of like, what's the little girl from The Grinch Stole Christmas, like a little girl with the
Cindy Lou Who?
Yeah, Cindy Lou Who. I'll shoot you. You better leave.
Yeah. So the footsteps stop and seemingly disappear, and I don't recall hearing the door close again. We wait a few moments and go into the kitchen and look around. Nothing was out of place, and my mom and I joke about it being a ghost. Now being older and hopefully less naive, I believe that someone probably broke in and didn't realize we were home and then left without incident. But we lived there for a few years with our, quote, ghost, always in the back of our minds. Thank you all for reading, and I can't wait to hear all of the listener stories. From Susan.
Oh, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. That was a good one, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't. I like my favorite one was the one right before that, where she coincidentally saved someone, didn't know what was really going on, and now she has a friend, and that was pretty crazy.
That was good.
The ghost one, it probably was someone.
Yeah.
And if someone says they're gonna shoot you, you're like, well, there's got to be an easier house than this one.
That's true. I feel like people never break into houses with dogs because of that. Like, why would you break into a house with dogs? That's why I'm always feel safe when I'm here by myself with Biggie and Lucy, because they're big, and if anyone sees our dogs, they're not going to want to try.
Yeah, and if I'm home, they're going to get all the smoke. So don't ever come in here.
All right, this is our last one. Are you ready?
Holy shit, what is this, like the 17th one?
No, this is the 4th. Are you ready?
I thought we did 4.
No, we did 3.
All right.
Okay. This one is from Kyle again.
Kyle, you got a lot of trouble going on there, bro.
He was reluctant to send this one. And he starts off the email and says, oh boy, here we go, ...
What'd you do?
I'll start off by saying that I grew up in a house where 2 sisters lived together and both passed away in the house.
Aw.
But at separate...
Wait, your sisters?
No, 2 sisters.
Okay.
But at separate times. Odd things did happen, but these events are the ones that are seared into my memory. Now, I don't know if Russ reads these beforehand or not, but go easy on me, man, LOL. These are 100% legit events.
I only make fun of people I like, so the harder I go, the cooler you are.
One of the oldest memories I have from childhood is this event. So back in the day, kindergarten was split between morning class and afternoon class. I remember that. Yeah. Were you morning or afternoon class?
We were all damn day.
You were? You didn't have it split?
It was school was the worst.
I was morning class, I think.
This is why New York people are just tougher. We just have to thug it out at 5.
I was in an afternoon class, so I could ride the bus home with my older brother at the end of the day. My dad worked an off shift and my mom worked 9 to 5. My dad would get me ready for the school day and get me on the bus. You should also know that we always had cats and dogs in our house, usually like 3 of each.
Oh,
or anywhere up to 6 animals lived with us at any one time.
Dr. Doolittle ass over there. But I love animals. I just like making fun of people.
Since I was in the afternoon kindergarten class, we'd been awake a few hours, so it wasn't like I was half asleep when this went down. One day before getting ready for school, my dad and I were in the living room watching TV, just hanging out, and then out of nowhere, we hear something fall upstairs. Thinking it was probably one of our cats knocking something over, my dad decides to be funny and say, "Who's up there?" In the deepest voice I'd ever heard, clear as day, we hear something say, "Me."
Wait, so you're telling me your cat can talk?
No, listen. My dad immediately stood up and told me to stay downstairs. My dad didn't mess around back in the day. I waited a couple minutes and he came back downstairs. We've already had other paranormal experiences at this point and chalk it up to that. This is how regular some of these odd things would happen were. The next one is even worse. When I was around 5 years old, my brother was around 7. One night, fast asleep, I'm woken up by my older brother crying his eyes out, scared out of his mind. Our dog Raz is just barking and growling like crazy at the corner of the bedroom that we shared. My dad came in the room, turned the light on, and while our dog was still going nuts at the corner and asked what was going on. My brother pointed to the corner and yelled that there was a headless man in the corner trying to get him. At this point, my parents had had enough. My mom took us to our grandma's house a few blocks away while my dad stayed behind.
Mom is with it.
I vividly remember hearing him scream at an empty house, "Stop fucking with my kids and bring that shit to me."
Oh, shit.
I lived in that house for the first 23 years of my life, and my final paranormal event happened while I was probably about 20 or 21. I came home from work one afternoon from the job I still have to this day, and I was on the couch watching TV.
Good for you. I quit jobs all the time.
Now, maybe I dozed off, but I really don't believe I did. It was a nice, cool fall day, so I opened the windows and was just relaxing after work. As I'm laying on the couch, from outside, I hear my mom's voice say, "Kyle." It was clear enough to me to recognize that it was her voice. I remember thinking she was home early. I got up from the couch, went to the door, and opened up, just being nice so my mom didn't have to get the keys out and all that. When I opened the door, her car wasn't out front, and obviously neither was she. I knew immediately I done fucked up. Here's why. I told my grandma this exact story a little while later, and she had the same thought I did too. I just let another entity into this already haunted house. We moved out shortly before my 24th birthday, but these events will stick with me until the day I die. On another note, I can totally get behind Russ and believing in life outside of our planet. Space is too vast to think we're the only ones, just from a mathematical standpoint. It's 100% more than likely we're not alone in this universe. I promise you I'm not a kook. Did I spell that right?
How would I spell kook? I think I would spell it K-O-O-K.
That's how he spelled it.
Yeah, I think that'll be it.
No tinfoil hats or conspiracy theories, just a normal dude living a normal life with a few exceptions. I need to play some PS5 after all that. Kyle, P.S. You'll notice I call these events and not stories. That's how sure I am that all of these things occurred while wide awake at some point during the paranormal experience.
See, now, I believe he believes this.
Mm-hmm.
But he's hearing voices.
But he doesn't hear voices in normal life. He heard it in that house.
And I wonder, I could ask him. I think we're friends on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I believe he believed them, but like maybe he was sleeping when he heard it, and he's like, maybe I was, because he maybe like his brain seems like it's regular.
Well, he, with a regular brain, just said that he is 100% sure that these events happen. That's why he calls them events and not stories.
Damn, Kyle, don't tell other people this, bro. People think you're crazy.
No, they're not. I don't think he's crazy.
Yeah, because Jess is crazy. Birds of a feather flock together.
I'm telling you, I have been in my shower in the house I lived in Florida. I've been in my shower and the door would lock and I didn't lock it. I'm telling you.
Damn, spring was faulty.
No. It's just, things happen.
I wonder now, since he plays video games, we're gamers. Like the backstory is Kyle tried to help me get the PS5 when I was having a hard time getting it.
Yeah.
Now, maybe go play some Resident Evil after this or something like some haunted game or some shit.
Well, anyway, those were some crazy stories, right?
Yeah, those were pretty good. If you guys have more, send them to us, because it was interesting to see like where your guys' minds are at, because like you guys always see like where my head's at. It's all over the place. Really,
it's cool to interact that way. So yeah, if you have any funny true crime, paranormal, any kind of story that you want me to tell Russ, send it to wifeofcrimepod@gmail.com. And we'll do this like once in a while. I don't know how often we're going to do it, but I need to get at least 3 or 4 stories before I do another episode. So
yeah, I think it would be interesting, and it's also leave us susceptible. How you say that word?
Susceptible.
Well, I don't know if you can pronounce all words because you always corroborate.
Leave me alone. It's susceptible.
Because if someone's a good writer here, they could send us a fake story that they wrote, which would be kind of dope too. If you're a good writer, go for it. But try to tell us good stories that are real.
Definitely. And check out Radio Rental. You guys would love that. All right. Well, have a wonderful week. This was a little bonus episode.
Yeah. So check us out. The usual stuff at Wife of Crime Pod on Instagram. And we got other social medias. What are they?
Twitter at Wife Crime. We got Facebook at Wife of Crime, the Crime Family. And Patreon at Wife of Crime Pod.
Yeah. Check all that stuff out. Have a drink. And we'll see you guys next episode.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Get merch too. It makes you look more diesel. Like it's, like you can
automatically you look more diesel if you wear our merch.
Yeah, stay fit, stay alive, even though some people don't want to.
All right, have a good week, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.